Now we're in chapter 1.7 and we're going to be dividing whole numbers. Let's start by going in our books to page 69 and we're going to look at number 36. The instructions say divide. So we have 1,240 divided by 3. When we start long division, we begin by looking in the ones place. So we say how many times does 3 go into 1? It doesn't. So now we move over and look at the ones and the tens together. So we say how many times does 3 go into 12? It goes into it 4 times. So we write 4 as part of our quotient. And then 4 times 3 is 12. And then we subtract. And we end up with 0. And then we must drop down the next number, which is 4. So 3 goes into 4 one time. And then 1 times 3 is 3. And again subtract and drop down the next digit, which is a 0. And then 3 into 10 3 times. 3 times 3, which is 9. And then subtract, and we have a remainder of 1. So we'll write it as an R and then the 1. Now let's look at number 54. The notation's different this time. We have 5,781 divided by 123. So let's rewrite this, and it's going to be 5,781 divided by 123. So again, let's start in our ones place. 123 doesn't go into 5, nor does it go into 57. So let's look at how many times 123 goes into 578. So off to the side, our scratch work. So let's start by looking at 123 times 4. And we get 3 times 4, which is 12. Carry our 1, and then 4 times 2, 8, plus 1 is 9. And 4 times 1 is 4. So we get 492. That keeps us within 578. Let's also see what's 123 times 5. Well, 5 times 3 is 15. Carry the 1. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1, which is 11. And then 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1, which is 6. So 492 keeps us within 578. So 123 goes into 578 4 times. We'll write the 492. And then we must subtract. Well, 8 minus 2 is 6. And then we need to borrow here. So we're going to borrow from the 5. It'll become a 4. And the 7 will become a 17. And then 17 minus 9, which is 8. And then drop down the next digit, which is the 1. So now we want to know how many times does 123 go into 861. So let's start by doing 123 times 7. Well, 3 times 7 is 21. And then 7 times 2 is 14, plus 2 is 16. And then carry the 1. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 1 is 8. So 123 goes into 861 7 times. We'll write the 161, and we have a remainder of 0. Now number 60, we have 164,592 divided by 543. So again, let's rewrite it. And we're going to start by saying 543 into 1, which it doesn't do. 16, no. 164, no. So what we're looking at is how many times does 543 go into 1,645. So off to the side, let's do some multiplication. Let's start with 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. And then 4 times 3 is 12. Carry the 1. 5 times 3 is 15, plus the 1 is 16. So 543 goes into 1,645 3 times. and that's 1,629. And then let's subtract these two. We'll have to borrow from the 4, so it becomes a 3, and the 5 will now be a 15. So 15 minus 9 is 6, and then 3 minus 2 is 1. And then let's drop down the next digit, which is the 9. So we're going to say how many times does 543 go into 169? It goes 0 times, so we'll write the 0. And then 0 times 543 is 0. And we'll subtract. We have 169. And then let's drop down the next digit, which is the 2. So now we want to know how many times does 543 go into 1,692. Well, we already did the work for 543 times 3, and we got 1,629. So we know this is going to be 3. And then let's write our 1,629. And subtract. We'll have to borrow, so the 9 will become an 8, and the 2 is now 12. 12 minus 9 is 3, and then 8 minus 2, which is 6. So our answer is 303 with a remainder of 63. Now let's look at the properties of 0. The quotient of 0 in any number except 0 is 0. So for example, 0 divided by 8 is 0, 0 divided by 6 is 0, and 0 divided by 4 is 0. So what this basically is saying is, as long as 0 is on the top or inside the divide symbol, the answer will be 0. Also, if 0 is first. The next property is the quotient of any number and 0 is not a number. It's referred to as undefined. So for example, 3 divided by 0 isn't possible, so we will say this is undefined. Notice the different placement in 0. This time 0 comes second and on the outside of our divide symbol. Also, it can look like this on the bottom. So if 0 is second or on the outside or on the bottom, it's referred to as undefined. Alright, let's go in our books to page 69 and let's look at problem 14 and 17. So again, we're dividing. For number 14, we have 12 divided by 0. And then for number 17, we have 0 divided by 14. So for number 14, 12 divided by 0. Since 0 is on the bottom and we cannot divide by 0, this answer is undefined. And then for number 17, we have 0 divided by 14. Here we can have 0 divided by 14, so the answer is 0. So remember, be careful. If 0 comes first or is on top of your fraction, then the answer is 0. If it's on the bottom or it comes second, then it is undefined. And the last thing we're going to cover is solving problems by dividing. So on page 70, let's look at number 75. And the problem reads, Martin Thiem teaches American Sign Language classes for $65 per student for a 7-week session. He collects $2,145 from the group of students. Find how many students are in the group. So let's write down the information they gave us. We know his classes are $65 per student. And he collects $2,145 from a group of students. And then the question says, find how many students are in the group. So we're looking for the number of students. So since we have the total and we have the price per student, we're going to divide The key word here is per, which means divide. So we're going to start with 2,145 divided by 65. So 65 doesn't go into 2. It doesn't go into 21. So let's see how many times it goes into 214. So let's start with 65 times 3. 5 times 3 is 15. Carry the 1. 6 times 3 is 18. Plus 1, which is 19. So 65 goes into 214 3 times. We'll subtract these. So let's start by borrowing. The 1 will become a 0, and the 4 is now a 14. 14 minus 5 is 9. Then we must borrow again, so the 2 is going to become a 1, and now the 0 is a 10. 10 minus 9 is 1. Drop down the next digit, which is 5. So we know 65 goes into 195 3 times. And we have a remainder of 0. So how many students are part of the group? 33 students. Okay, this will conclude our video for chapter 1.7. Please email me if you have any questions.